The NFL is back. We have preseason football, the Pro Football Hall of Fame game taking place tonight in Canton, Ohio. It'll be the Los Angeles Chargers against the Detroit Lions.
Is this really NFL games, or is this more like UFL?
No, this is NFL. I mean,
None of the starters or the best rookies are playing. I know for the Lions.
Really? They're not going to play anybody?
Yeah. No, they're not.
Okay.
I'm assuming the Chargers are going to be the same.
Probably in the first one, at least. I don't know. You know, there used to be, when there was 4, there was this groupthink that, okay, the first game, you play the starters one series, right? One series each, and then you get them out. And then the second game, maybe you play them a quarter. And then the third game is when we're going to play them the longest. We're going to play them into the third quarter for maybe one series and then get them out. And then the fourth game, nobody at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like they don't like to play anybody. But, you know, Todd Bowles said something the other day after practice, and he said that it's going to be different for them this year. He plans on playing his guys. Now, he didn't say, you know, that they would play very much in this first game, but he said, I want our guys to play, which is, you know, not usually what you hear in the preseason. I mean, I think, you know, the preseason games have sort of been supplanted a little bit by all the, you know, joint workouts and stuff like that, because you can control contact, but you can also, you know, make sure that you get, you know, certain situations that you might not get in the game, like a, you know, 2-minute drive, you know, goal line, stuff like that. But, you know, so I don't know.
I know that Joe Burrow has said they're going to play more in this preseason than he's ever played before.
Yeah, that might be what the group, you know, what it's trending like. I'll say this is that because they don't play and haven't played very much the last few years, I thought the quality of play has been really bad early in the season. I mean, you've always seen a lot of special teams gaffes and things like that.
Yep.
You know, if you're going to bet on a kick return, bet on it in the first couple of weeks, because you got new players going down playing gunner and stuff and whatnot. But it's been, you know, I think the inability to tackle right during training camp or preseason very much really leads to some sloppy football. And just these guys just haven't played. You know, they hadn't played, you know, full speed, and then they try to accelerate in a regular season game. It just looks bad. So maybe that's something that Bowles observed last year. I mean, they've gotten off to 3-1 starts both years, so it's not as if, you know, his teams start slow, because they don't. But there must be something there because he's vowing to play his guys more than he has, which is interesting. But
no question about it. Yeah.
Getting back to the Hall of Fame game, so the guys going in, the guys will be inducted over the weekend, are Eric Allen, who is a defensive back, obviously, for a number of teams, including, I think, the Eagles. Jared Allen, who is an outside pass rusher, defensive end, if you will, mostly for the Vikings. Antonio Gates, of course, the tight end from the Chargers. And Sterling Sharp, who is Shannon Sharp's older brother, that was incredible wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. I was a little surprised that it's taken this long for people to sort of recognize Sterling Sharp, because, man, when I first started covering the Bucs, like, that dude was a beast. Like, you know, it was him, it was Chris Carter, it was like, you know, certain dudes, Jerry Rice, that sort of just, you know, of course, everybody picked on the Bucs, but he had some enormous games here in Tampa. So he's going to go in. Just 4 guys, which is the smallest class of the modern day players, smallest class since 2005, which is weird to me, because there's always arguments in that room about, you know, who the 5th guy is going to be, much less just picking 4. So I'm not sure what happened there. Presenters, you're going to have Randall McDaniel, who played here, is going to present Eric Allen. Steve Hutchinson is going to present Jared Allen. I think LaDainian Tomlinson's involved in probably Antonio Gates. I believe he's his presenter. The one thing I would say is that I always thought Jared Allen was a really, really good player. I mean, exceptional player, right? Took him a little while. You know, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, and I don't disagree with the decision. But just to put it in context here, he played the same number of years as Simeon Rice, and he had only 14 more sacks than Simeon did, which over the course of, you know, 12 years isn't a ton. It's like a little more than 1 a year, right? But yet no one talks about Simeon Rice really about when it comes to the Hall of Fame. And I know why, and it's kind of crap because I've been in that room, and the conversation will go like, yeah, well, but he was really good, but you already got 4 people off that defense, and they only won 1 Super Bowl. You telling me they deserve 5? Well, the other 4 really shouldn't factor in, to be honest with you.
Well, the
They, you
team
know,
doesn't deserve it. It's the play of the individual that determines the
exactly,
Hall of Fame.
exactly. But they'll bring up this nonsense about, well, the Steelers won this many games and they only have that many, they won 4 like, I don't want to hear it. Let's just talk about the player. He was as dominant as any guy at his position during the time he played, averaged more than 10 sacks a year. And not just that, but, made game changing plays. He got the ball out so much with the strips and the fumbles and things like that. So, if you're going to be dropping Jared Allen in there, man, you should really give some consideration to Simeon Rice. I don't think it'll happen. But, maybe as time goes on, people will take a closer look. The rest of them, I don't have a problem even with Jared Allen, but I just think that, if we're going to look at him, we should look at everybody. Like I said, Sterling was a really good player. Not sure why they don't have 5 or at least 5 in modern day guys, but they don't. And yeah, so but football is back, and the Bucks are back at practice as well. They had a night practice the other night, then a day off, and now it's time to get back to the grind, so to speak. And I think it's you have a military day this week. That's always a big day, at training camp. I think there's at least one open practice as well. So we'll be back in the heat, seeing if they can keep these guys healthy, which is the first thing. They've had a lot of players, sort of miss time with hamstring injuries. Kate Otten hadn't practiced in about 3 or 4 days. You'd like to see some of those guys get back in there and start doing it. But long training camp, you're trying to be careful with them. They're signing some camp bodies, because they've had some injuries at the running back position. And this is kind of what you do this time of year is, you have a 90-man roster, but the most important thing is, can you get through practice? Can you get through at the positions you need? So they signed a receiver, Jaden Smith, who played 3 years at Montana State and then went to Tarleton State and then finished his last year at Nevada. He's a skinny guy, 6'6", 210. Probably will look at maybe battling for a practice squad spot, something like that. And then they also, with as I mentioned, with the 2 running backs injured, they're signing Ravens running back Owen Wright, and he had worked out for them this past week. Tryout player in rookie minicamp. He had 89 yards and a touchdown against the Bucks 2 years ago in the preseason. So again, they got some guys nicked up at running back. They're down to 3 running backs. They'd like to have some support there, and I don't know what chances these guys have of making the club, but they're making some moves. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. We finally have football, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a great place. They've kind of reversed what they used to do. They used to have the game on Saturdays, the same day as the induction ceremonies. Now it's the game first, and then the induction over the weekend during the day. I've been backstage at that place. What's really fascinating are the conversations that go on before they get to the stage in the green room. You have your class of Hall of Famers, and they come together. Now they'd come together for the first time and in Canton. They used to do it where they would, put these guys wherever the Super Bowl was. They'd fly these guys out, and if you were a finalist, one of the 15 finalists, you'd go to a hotel room that you weren't staying at, by the way, and they'd have you a hotel room, and it was the weirdest thing. You either get the proverbial knock on the door by David Baker, who at the time was like the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which meant that you made it, or nothing would happen at all, and you get a phone call that would tell you, yeah, come on downstairs, and we got a bus ready for you to take you to NFL honors, which was kind of a walk of shame for a lot of those guys. And it was hard. I mean, when you talk about stress, I was there when Eddie DeBarlo went in and some others, and man, they really, it is a stressful time until you get the good news. But now with the knocks on the door and things like that, a little bit different. But what's cool is when they get in the backstage and you see these guys come together as a class, and the respect and the reverence they have for each other, and the conversations, is pretty neat. When Peyton Manning went in, Tom Brady, came and those guys were backstage talking and things like that. So it was pretty wild. Let's just quickly shift a little bit as we're in real time watching the Tampa Bay Rays. Your Tampa Bay Rays have lost again in a walk-off, and guess what? The bullpen blew it.
Yeah, well, they blew saves in the 8th, 9th, and 10th innings, and then got the loss in the 11th.
and guess who was on the mound? It was Kelly again.
Kelly in the 9th, yes.
He's been so bad lately.
Or Kelly in the 11th for the loss.
Yeah.
Fairbanks blew it in the 9th.
He did. Yeah.
After Josh Lowe had a 2-run home run in the 9th to give the Rays the lead back.
Yep.
They led the game. Most of the game 1-0.
So who hit? I didn't see who hit the walk-off left-handed batter. The play of the game.
Is that McMahon?
That's McMahon. Yeah.
Yep.
You know what's weird, and I don't know how you score this. All he did was touch first base. Does that still go down as a home run?
He didn't hit a home run. I just hit it over the center fielder's head.
It bounced. Okay, I saw.
Yeah, it was a single.
I lost sight of the ball.
No, but there was runners on second and third. It went over to Luca's head and center.
Yeah. I thought it had gone out, but it actually just went over his head.
No, it was just short of the warning track. But it was over to Luca's head.
So he didn't need to do anything but touch first.
Just a single. Walk-off single.
Yeah, walk-off. Walk-off is a walk-off. Well, it's time to trade them all now, Steve.
Which now means the Rays are below 500.
They are, and it's been a very long time since you could say that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was May when they were awful stretch at home, and then they got on that hot streak and turned it around. So it's probably been late May was the last time they were below 500.
That sounds right.
Think.
Yeah, because they had such a good June. Whew, man.
And now the trade deadline this afternoon or this evening at 6:00.
Yeah.
The Rays will play the Yankees at 1:00 first.
I mean, Zack Littell's going to go, and I would imagine that the offers just got a little better after the way he pitched. He was lights out.
He was fantastic.
Couple of hits, no runs.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I expect, and we've talked about this, but Zack Littell to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think Clevenger might go.
Fairbanks.
I think when it comes to Pete and when it comes to Lau and when it comes to Yandy, I think they're listening on all offers and they're willing, but you're going to have to blow them away.
Mm-hmm.
Because not all of them have team-friendly options, as far as money-wise for next year. Nothing too high, nothing too exorbitant. So they're all coming back. Littell's a free agent. That's why he's going to go. But the other ones, you don't have to trade Pete now. You could wait till the offseason to do it if you don't get the offer that is worth it now.
Right.
Same with Lau and same with Yandy. So, but the closer market with Clase being now suspended, he's off the market. Another one of the closers is hurt now, Bautista. So the demand for closers got a lot higher, which means you might get an offer that you say, if you're Eric Neander, you may say we couldn't pass this one up.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance Pete goes.
Yeah.
I think of the three, I think he's the most likely to go out of him, Lau, and Yandy.
Probably fetched the most in terms of prospects, too, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of what somebody like that would mean to a playoff contender. Somebody had a question in the mailbag about Pete Fairbanks, didn't they?
Yes. Let me look that one up real quick. It was actually a really good question. It was Ryan who tweeted. It says, do you think Pete Fairbanks' adverse issues with playing in cold weather is limiting his opportunities for trade from cold weather contenders or affecting the Rays' asking price?
I don't know whether it'll affect their asking price, but I will say this, that there's clearly an issue there. He's talked about it, and I think the statistics kind of bear that out. If I am a cold weather team, and what's a cold weather team, right? I mean, if you're playing in late October or November, it's going to be cool. Chances are where you're at. But yeah, if I'm a northern team,
if I'm New York,
if I'm Milwaukee, right? If I'm New York,
Milwaukee's got a dome. So
they have a dome, yeah, so that's not as big of a problem. The Cubs,
the Tigers,
Boston,
yeah, Tigers, the Phillies,
Toronto has a dome.
Yeah.
But anyone that doesn't have a dome, although you still would. Okay, so say you're playing at home, right? But the series has to play most likely a couple games on the road somewhere.
Yep.
So even those teams have to consider it. I think it's a real thing. I think it's a real thing, and I would be a little cautious if I were a team that could potentially face some colder weather in the fall. And like I said, even if you don't, the team you're playing might. You
Mhm.
know, so I think you have to look at everything, and that'd be among the top things. I mean, I don't know that this condition is fixed. Whatever that thing is, he has a loss of feeling in his hands. Can't feel the ball and grip it and things like that, and it looks real. I don't think it's between the ears, so yeah, I think you'd have to give it some pause. But then again, is the juice worth the squeeze? I mean, maybe you just think that his talent is overwhelming enough that it's not going to make that big of an impact. But we've seen him struggle with it before. I
Yep.
mean, I think he legit has a condition. So
Yep.
that's
But
a good question.
you're also trading for him for next season as well. I mean, he's got a team
That's
friendly,
true. Yeah,
option.
that's
It's
true.
not like he's a rental too.
No, that's true.
And a lot of times the contending teams aren't necessarily trading for a closer. They're getting your closer to be a setup guy.
Right, right. They
You
have
know,
one, and
they
then
may
you
not
just
be
set up.
trading. They may be trading for him to be their ninth inning guy. They may want him in the seventh or eighth inning, which can be
That's
different
true.
too. And
Yeah,
so you could take a chance. But I think Eric Neander really hasn't made many moves to this point. I mean, they traded for Baker, who gave up the 2-run home run to Volpe tonight.
yeah.
Um, but I think you're going to see deals today. It'll be interesting. It could be happen during the game today. You might see players removed from the game.
That's so odd. It was odd the other day, when their catcher was traded and he was in the
Yeah.
dugout.
Yeah, well, they couldn't make the trade official because they had no backup catcher.
Right. Jensen had to
So
stick around.
he had to stick around, and had something happened to Theis, he would have had to go in the game. I think the only way they brought him in was, had something happen to Theis.
Right.
Now, Jeff Passan, as we are doing this, just tweeted, the Reds are finalizing a deal to acquire Littell from the Rays.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Deal is pending medical review, according to Jeff Passan. This is tweeted 12 seconds ago as we're taping this.
Well, he certainly looked healthy in this game when he gave up just 2 hits. So, and I'm sure that the performance probably, maybe it sweetened the pot a little bit for the Rays to get back some prospects. Who knows?
Yep.
His spot in the rotation will have to be taken up. Maybe Taj Bradley comes back. Taj Bradley, by the way, 7 shutout innings, I think, in Durham in his first start down there.
Yeah, 7, not just shutout innings.
Hitless,
no
right?
hit innings. Had
Wow.
2 walks, 3 strikeouts.
Wow.
Yeah, 7. So he did really well in his first appearance in AAA, and he might get called back up. I mean,
it might be that simple, that quick, right?
It might be. Seymour was just sent down. But they could call somebody else up too now that Littell's spot in the rotation. I mean, you don't have to do anything for a few days, but
right,
with Littell going to the Reds, and the Reds are going for it for the first time in years. So
yeah,
they got Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pirates today.
Part of that it was helped by the Rays getting swept there the other day.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
Only scored 5 runs in 3 games. I think I just have a feeling we're going to see more trades than not for this Rays team. And look, do you want to see Lau or Yandy go? No, but tell me they don't have a lot of freaking value. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and somebody also asked me about, we've talked about this probably before, but like, is the new ownership going to put their thumb on the scale at all? Like, do they have any say? And the answer to me to that, and I think Sternberg might have talked to Mark Tompkins and he had a note or a story about it, is that it's business as usual when it comes to the baseball ops. This team is not sold, right? They have
correct
an agreement in principle to talk to them and negotiate it and all that stuff. But from what some of the reporting has been is that this new group wants to keep most, if not all, of the baseball ops guys, including Eric Neander. Now, I don't know what his contract says, whether he can get out with new ownership or what, but they to me, they're not making this call. However, if the Rays were a team, and I don't think they are, but if they were a team that was going to take on, some enormous salary from some team of a player, I think you'd have to at least make them aware of it because, that goes on the deficit side of things. when it comes to the purchase of the baseball team. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that's a thing. It just,
Yeah.
Steve, here's the thing. Let me just say this real quick before I forget it. This baseball team's not going to go anywhere in the postseason. They're just not. Okay. It doesn't feel like it. I don't think they're going to get there. I don't think they're good enough. Um, they were a hot team for a month. There's no question about that. That when everything falls their way, they can swing it a little bit better than they have. They can certainly pitch it a little bit better than they have. But their bullpen, especially if you lose Fairbanks, it's not shut down enough. You're probably about one arm shy of the full rotation in for the starters. And I like their lineup. I don't love it yet. I think it's very good at times, but they've kind of been up and down. They've been inconsistent, and
Mm-hmm.
with all these games on the road, if this was a balanced schedule and they were back in the Trop and you didn't have, being right in the middle of 19 out of 22 on the road with the 3 games at home against the Dodgers, I'd say, yeah, go for it. You're not that far out. You make a wild card and take your run. But I don't know. I don't have any evidence that this team is going to do that, and therefore, again, you don't give away players, but um, I tend to think we're going to be surprised that there's going to, and it could be wrong as rain. We'll know
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. There's going to be more players traded than Rays fans will really want to stomach.
I think
That's what
there's
I think.
one other thing to consider. And, part of trading players now to get more assets.
Right.
Some of them are going to be low level minor leaguers. Others are going to be maybe in AAA or guys that, are on the cusp of coming to majors, and you acquire them and you're going to bring them up to the majors. If you trade Brendan Lau and Yandy Diaz, what veterans are on this team to teach anybody? Like, this is a very young team. Those are your 2 veterans, and you want a bunch of young players without any veteran leadership. And I think it's something Neander has to consider with that. Now, if the offer coming back is just too good for one or both, you might trade them. But, leadership, and it's something we've talked about over the years, like when they traded Manny Margot, some leadership went away. And, there's certain players that are kind of leaders, and usually some of the veterans can help young guys. If Lau and Yandy are both gone,
Yeah.
Who's helping Caminero figure things out? Who's helping DeLuca and Mangum and Chandler Simpson and go through the young guys?
Yeah. No, I think that
Hassan Kim's here, so he's one, although he could get traded as well, possibly. And he's now hurt, too.
I mean, Josh Lowe has been in the big leagues long enough he could take on some of that.
Yeah.
But you're obviously going to have a void. I mean, you're going to have a leadership void. I mean,
Right.
Yandy probably has the most equity in that clubhouse, and certainly Lau does too. So those are 2 really, really big ones. The other thing I was thinking, and I don't know when they're ready, this is the projected time we're supposed to see it. The Rays have some really good players ready to come up in the minor leagues. Carson Williams is going to be a stud, right? And he could be up here this year. Shortstop, obviously, good hitter. Xavier Isaac is projected to be up here next year at first base. So, Yandy's a first base / DH. Obviously, Aranda's, could go into that DH role. So in some ways, you have Brody Hopkins, who's a right-handed pitcher, supposed to be up next year. In some ways, you create space and opportunity for what you think are going to be bona fide, really good young baseball players that are ready to move.
But that's where I think Lau and Diaz may get traded in the offseason.
True.
Like I said, you still need some veterans around to help a young team.
Yeah.
If you're trying, the whole purpose of selling is to get ready for next season. I mean, they're not going through a rebuild.
No.
They're selling because, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs this year, but we're trying to make ourselves better next year and the year after.
Yeah.
You still need some veterans. So,
but guys got to step. I mean, that's, that mantle's got to be passed too, doesn't it? I mean, it does. I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, just give me the most talented guys. Like, I don't care, yes, you have to learn how to play in the majors, and there's a lot of things you have to put up with the, the confidence and this travel and whatever it is, getting along with teammates. But if you can play, That's what I really need. I need people that can play, and then the rest of it will take care of itself. The manager's there for a reason. Like I, some of that pass the mantle stuff.
I don't know if
I
it's past the Mantle stuff, but like, and I'll go back to a few years ago when they traded for Nelson Cruz.
yeah
You know what player got better immediately on that roster? Was Wander Franco. He had just come up. He was struggling a little bit, had been sent down, came back. Nelson Cruz took him under his wing and settled him down, helped settle him down. And Nelson Cruz is known as that, as a teammate.
should have kept him around longer.
Well, and granted,
Because ultimately they couldn't settle him.
Well, he
down.
was much like Willie Adames, couldn't see at the trop, didn't hit well at the trop,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So, I mean, he wasn't going to resign
I
him
know,
because of
I
that.
know.
But
I'm just saying, Wander.
like, there are
had
times,
other
and
problems.
granted, I'm not saying I don't know if Lau and Yandy are that type of leader in the clubhouse. I know they're the veterans in the clubhouse, right?
Right.
But sometimes those guys with young players, with Caminero, you start going through a tough stretch. Having the manager can say stuff to you, coaches can say, but sometimes
having a Latin player helps.
Absolutely,
for sure, because you have a language barrier there and a cultural divide and everything else. So I think for a guy like Caminero to have Yandy there, I think is huge.
Absolutely. And so, like I said, I don't think the thought of that prevents them from trading.
It wouldn't stop me from trading them. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But if you don't get the deal you think they're worth, maybe you reconsider and wait till the offseason if you're willing to trade.
Well, the bigger thing is that they don't need to trade them at all.
Exactly.
They like the players, so it's like if they're good players for another team, they're going to continue to be good players here. It's just what the return would be, and the fact that it doesn't look like this year, at least, the Rays are going to make a run. So you have to consider it, which they always do, and they usually do the right thing. And I don't think there's going to be a fire sale or anything like that. I don't foresee that. At the end of the day, there'll probably be one or two more guys go, and it might not be Yandy and it might not be Brandon, but they're gonna have a tough time regardless making these playoffs. Not that far out of the third wild card still, I'm sure. Still, 50 something games to go, but I don't feel like this baseball team is the way it's constituted right now. For whatever reason, it is just going to catch fire again and have the best September on record. Like I just don't see that out of them, but I could be wrong.
Well, as we said, Zack Littell being traded to the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched tonight, but what would be a nice parting gift for him?
What's that?
A watch from Breitling Boutique.
That's true, because he needs to know what time it is, especially if he goes to another time zone. He could do that with a watch from Breitling Boutique because they have the best Swiss watches you're going to find anywhere. The Breitling Company's been in business over 140 years. They've been in International Plaza Mall for more than 5 years. Now, here's what you do. You go to International Plaza, go to the center of the mall. They're upstairs, second floor. You can't miss it. Terrific store, great customer service. Go in, have a drink. They're going to pour you one. They're going to tell you about the best timepiece you're going to ever own. For the men, they have the Navitimeters and the Chronomat watches that are so beautiful. Women's watches as well for your wife, for your girlfriend. These are sport watches, and they are durable and absolutely stunning, and they come in an array of many, many different colored wristbands for her. And while supplies last, and that's the key phrase, they're doing something in celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary with 32 different team watches. There's 32 teams in the NFL, 32 beautiful Chronomat watches. These have the logo of the team as well as their colors and the face of these watches. Go to TampaBay.com. You can see the Buccaneers team watch as well. But unfortunately, it's just while supplies last. So get down there quickly. They're Breitling Boutique. They're in International Plaza Mall. And when you go, please let them know that you heard about it from Sports Day Tampa Bay.
All right, Rick, we got a mailbag question from Garv in Sarasota. He was commenting on our conversation about Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred the last week. It was Manfred met with the Phillies. He says, I find it disturbing that the media did not mention Bryce Harper's obvious bias as far as fully supporting the players' union. It's also surprising that the players themselves are not informed enough to know most would make more than they do under the current agreement. At least you guys mention it, but would like to think the players would want to think about it, understand what revenue sharing is a cap, a floor would bring. But finally on Harper, I was a bit surprised that neither of you were more taken aback by how and what he said to Commissioner Manfred. Seriously, even in 2025, Was that not extremely arrogant and incredibly rude? To me, unacceptably rude. I cannot believe that would be celebrated, and not saying you did, but it seemed like Harper got a pass. Doing what he did, as reported, makes him look entitled, arrogant, and selfish. It should be said.
I'm not sure I disagree with anything he said, including the fact that we probably didn't make enough mention of the way he did it. Being very not just vocal, but sort of in the face of the commissioner of baseball and telling them to get the bleep out of their clubhouse. That's unacceptable, just because you got to have more respect for people, much less somebody that's in charge of your game. Okay.
Yeah.
But I understand the animus that there is between the players union sometimes and management. That said, he was thinking of himself. I don't think he was necessarily thinking of, the other players in the union, because I think in some ways that there needs to be changes, and you can't just make it personal. But yeah, I mean, he makes good points. We weren't really focused on sort of the rudeness of it all, but I'm sure it was it was an intimidating scene and not one that was welcomed by the commissioner. And I would just say Harper better watch out and not get tossed from any games, because his suspension might be a game or two longer than it would be normally.
I would also say this, and I agree with Garv, but I would also say this was a private closed-door meeting. Now, obviously, players or someone spoke and told someone about what happened.
Well, maybe
it wasn't like this was a public forum and he did it. And it's not making it right.
Yeah,
but this was a private meeting between the commissioner and the players, who the players have never really liked the commissioner. Although I do find it funny, and I was reading more articles today, and again, nobody talking about any of the bias.
Yeah,
it's talking about Justin Verlander, and they have not met with the commissioner at his team yet, and he's another one who's very against the salary cap, and is going to I have lots of questions, but of course they never report his contracts over the years that he's made.
Exactly.
But, Verlander was also on the committee in the last CBA when they had the lockout that was, took away part of spring training. What was it, in 21 or 22, whatever year it was? 22, I think it was. And, the players, the agreement that came back, the players committee that Verlander was on absolutely said no to the new CBA. They were adamantly against it, whatever. Well, the players voted overwhelmingly, overruled that committee that did the negotiating and agreed the deal. Like there's the head of the union, and then there's those player reps that have been guys like Verlander that think it should be one way, when the rest of the players aren't always on board on that. And it's going to be really interesting. Like I said, there's going to be a work stoppage, whether it impacts games or not. Who cares about December and January and February if they're locked out when no games are going on? But it's going to be interesting how the negotiations go, because there's definitely disagreements from the players at large to the guys running the union and some of those reps. And it's going to be really interesting how that goes. And usually that doesn't fare well for the players, because the owners are usually in lockstep with each other. And if the players can't get in lockstep with each other, they generally lose a negotiation.
Yeah, I'm just not sure, you need to represent everybody, if you're part of that union, if you're representing the union. So that doesn't make sense to me. They should be, whatever the rank and file believes is what their position should be. And I can't imagine you would just go opposite of that, but I know what happens. These work stoppages are always bad. They don't help the sport, and nobody wins. And the people that lose the most are the fans. You hurt your game.
The question is, which players' union is in worse shape, baseball or football?
It's a great question. I think probably baseball. I think simply because at least football can fall back on the fact that they get about 48% of the designated gross revenue. So,
but I'm just saying how they're the head of the union, and now Tretter's out.
Oh, well, that's been a disaster. The soap opera part of it, no question. I think Manfred is much more stable than the NFL is rudderless. They don't have any leaders. They have to go back now and have special elections. There's malfeasance. There's somebody may go to jail, over some of the things that was done in the NFLPA. So they're completely rudderless. I still think that what they have fought for in the CBA that they operate under shows a lot more strength than Major League Baseball at this point. But then again, they're still showing up in April.
It does, but they still haven't got guaranteed contracts.
They don't have guaranteed contracts, and they freaking got to go to mandatory mini camps. I mean, can you imagine?
Yep.
Brady used to say this all the time. Okay, so baseball ends late October, early November, and you're saying, all right, we have mandatory pitching camp December 23rd. You're like,
although in summer, NFL is the shortest season of all the sports, though.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, the regular season's 4 months. With the playoffs and preseason, it's 6 months, where other sports are 8 to 9, 10 months with the postseason.
Yeah, with the postseason, yeah.
I mean, hockey ends in late June.
Jeez.
And preseason starts in late September. It's 9 months.
Crazy how long that is, yeah.
And NBA's close to that, too.
Right.
They start a little later, but yeah, it's
well, it's because it's the roughest sport, Steve. You just can't play football that long.
Well, that's why we can't guarantee contracts.
Well, yeah, which side of the argument you want to be on? We want to guarantee them and not play very much.
Although they are trying to extend the season. They're going to go to 20 games.
Oh, they will. It'll be 18 and then quickly 20 after that, I believe.
20 will be after the new CBA.
Yeah.
18 will come in a year or two, probably.
Yeah, I think you're right. Wow.
20 will be in like 2030 or 2031 when the new CBA hits.
Yeah. Well, it's a big day in sports. So we got NFL preseason football, and of course the Chargers against Detroit, and then the Major League Baseball trade deadline. We'll know more about the Rays, and we won't have to speculate. We'll actually have perhaps some news to react to. Go see our friends at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure that when you do, you check out the beautiful NFL watches, the 104th year anniversary watches, 32 teams. While supplies last, it's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza. Tell them that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening. As always, for Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.